Welcome, everyone, to our channel. Imagine a scenario amidst escalating geopolitical tensions. A leading military power decides to test the limits by attempting to penetrate Russia's airspace. Would they succeed? Or would they face an invisible wall of defense that no nation dares to breach? From the Cold War to today, this question has always been an enigma, a challenge that has perplexed even the greatest military minds. Today, we're going to dive deep into the secrets behind Russia's legendary air defense capabilities, exploring the reasons why their airspace has become a true no-fly zone for any potential adversary. Let's find out what transformed Russia into the king of defensive skies. Throughout the Cold War, the confrontation between the US, NATO, and the Soviet Union wasn't just on land or sea, but a fierce arms race in the skies. The US and NATO invested enormously in developing means to penetrate the Warsaw Pact's air defense network. Their goal was none other than to conduct tactical and strategic nuclear attacks on Soviet territory. However, the Soviet Union was no slouch. They poured massive resources into continuously modernizing their defense systems. By the early 1980s, the Soviet air defense network deployed an array of systems that few adversaries worldwide could match. Among them, the early variants of the highly mobile S-300 air defense system stood out, a name that still resonates in the arms market today. Alongside it was the long-range S-200 system, less mobile but capable of engaging enemy aircraft up to 300 kilometers away. These giants were supplemented by a range of shorter-range air defense systems, like the Tor-M1 anti-cruise missile platform and the Buk-M1 medium-range defense system. They formed a multi-layered defense network from long-range to short-range, making penetration incredibly difficult. Despite this, the United States never gave up its dream of touching Soviet territory. The brilliant military minds at the Pentagon devised countless plans, from the boldest strategies to secret approaches, on how to quietly, secretly enter and exit Soviet airspace unnoticed. One of the strategies the US used to penetrate this vast land was to deploy a large fleet of supersonic bombers, optimized for very low-altitude operations, typically the B-1B Lancer. The idea was that low-flying aircraft would be difficult for adversaries to track and neutralize with long-range air defense systems, and even challenging for early Soviet interceptors due to their lack of low-altitude combat capabilities. This was quite different from the strategy of the early Cold War years, when the US sought to deploy the much more expensive B-70 bomber than the B-1B. The B-70 was then likened to an athlete, possessing extreme speeds of up to Mach 3 and capable of launching nuclear attacks from very high altitudes. But this attack method was limited by the Soviet development of a defense system specialized in destroying high-altitude targets. And none other, the beast that thwarted the US plan, was the S-200 air defense system. As mentioned, the S-200 could not only strangle aerial targets within a 300 kilometers radius, but its radar also had a target detection range of up to 600 kilometers and the ability to search for targets in space at altitudes above 45,000 meters. Both of these capabilities not only halted bombers, but were also ideal for ballistic missile defense. This system could even shoot down fighter jets, even at longer ranges. To illustrate the S-200's power, let's recall a notable incident. The S-200 system of the Syrian Air Defense Forces once shot down a US Navy, a Ford jet, and an Israeli F-16. These are real-world examples demonstrating the superior combat capabilities of this system in actual confrontations. Not only that, the Soviet Union's strengthening of its air defense network and the deployment of light, man-portable surface-to-air missiles, MANPADS, optimized to destroy low-flying aircraft, significantly reduced the viability of strategies built around low-flying bombers like the B-1B Lancer. Another capability the US once considered was relying on attack helicopters equipped with advanced electronic warfare countermeasures to neutralize Soviet air defense batteries and associated radars from low altitudes. Although this idea seemed audacious, it had serious limitations due to the vulnerability of helicopters deep within Warsaw Pact territory. In reality, this scenario was impossible. No helicopter could realistically fly in and out of such a vast land safely. Therefore, using stealth aircraft would be a wiser choice, in my opinion, as the United States possessed the F-117 Nighthawk, the world's first stealth aircraft, which first flew on June 18, 1981. The F-117 was designed to virtually disappear from radar screens. However, the power of the Soviet radar network and the use of multiple systems, including some that utilized very high frequencies, also known as VHF frequencies, posed a significant challenge. Simply put, these frequencies could detect stealth targets, especially when the wavelength was twice the size of the target. The Russian-made Nitel 55G6 VHF radar is a testament to this. Operating at VHF frequencies, the radar could track targets with a low radar cross-section, such as cruise missiles and stealth aircraft, with high accuracy. This meant that stealth technology would no longer completely shield aircraft if their adversaries used radars operating in this frequency band. And did the US stop there after all these plans were thwarted by the Soviet Union? Of course not. Considered Washington's bluntest strategy to neutralize Soviet air defense systems. It involved using old B-52 jet aircraft equipped with tactical nuclear weapons to destroy enemy air defense systems with massive and disproportionate attacks. The B-52, which first flew in the 1950s, had neither supersonic nor stealth capabilities. It was highly valued for its long range, but it couldn't fly particularly high or particularly low, meaning its only real defense was electronic warfare systems. Even when facing the air defense systems of the North Vietnamese Army, which were old compared to Soviet air defenses and relatively low in density, the B-52 suffered significant combat losses. However, to counter Soviet air defense systems, the B-52 was supported by the AGM-69 Shran short-range attack missile launcher. This missile entered service in 1972, at a time when the B-52 was increasingly considered obsolete, with over 1,500 units built within 4 years. Each cost over $500,000, making it one of the most expensive missiles at the time. With a range of 150 to 200 kilometers, depending on its flight path, and a top speed of 4,300 kilometers per hour, the Shram could overwhelm any Soviet air defense system then. After leaving the aircraft, the missile automatically flew to its target with the ability to hit within a circle of 430 meters radius. The U.S. Air Force considered this an acceptable error because the SRAM's W-69 nuclear warhead had a destructive power of 210 kilotons, 14 times the atomic bomb the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. Imagine, with dozens of B-52s deployed, and each dropping a batch of nuclear warheads, the firepower aimed at Soviet air defense sites would be terrifying. It could be a rain or even a storm of fire that could wipe out an entire modern civilization. But luckily, that didn't happen because a thick rind has a sharp nail. The Soviet MiG-31 Foxhound Heavy Interceptor was the one that drew the red line and became the primary threat to U.S. bombers. Introduced in 1981, the MiG-31 was the first fourth-generation fighter to join the Soviet Air Force and is considered the best in air-to-air capabilities in the Russian Air Force today. The MiG-31 has an extremely long range and was the first aircraft in the world capable of sustained supersonic flight. With a top speed of 3,000 kilometers per hour and a ceiling of 20,600 meters, it could cover the entire vast territory of North and Central Asia within the Soviet Union. It was designed not only to intercept all types of enemy aircraft, from bombers, reconnaissance planes to fighters, and airborne early warning jets. But this Soviet masterpiece was also adapted for non-air combat roles, such as the ability to intercept low-altitude cruise missiles. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, many might have thought that Russia's air defense forces would gradually decline as the country struggled with many spears after the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. At that time, the Russian armed forces were seen as just a smaller version of the Soviet armed forces, while facing powerful adversaries. It could be said that the armed forces then were only suitable for military operations from before 1945, which no longer met the requirements of the modern era and modern warfare. However, Moscow quickly regained its balance and made remarkable progress in its air defense system. They continued to pose a challenge to U.S. bombers by deploying long-range surface-to-air missile systems whose reputations are undoubtedly known to all. The monsters we are referring to here are the S-300, S-400, S-500 missile systems and all their variants. The S-400 Triumph and S-300 V4 versions are well optimized to neutralize aircraft like the B-52 and B-1B Lancer at extreme ranges. Both systems have a detection range of approximately 600 kilometers and an engagement range of 400 km. Not to mention the S-500 Prometheus, a system built upon the SIF-400's legacy, which even has an operational range of over 600 kilometers and an even greater detection range, while specializing in neutralizing high-value targets like strategic bombers. The S-500 takes only 10 seconds to react to aerial threats and only about 3 to 4 seconds to fire at different targets. In contrast, the S-400 takes 9 to 10 seconds to do this. But the U.S. military currently operates a relatively large number of fifth-generation aircraft like the F-22, Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. A question has been raised: do the super air defense systems that Russia has invested heavily in developing, like the S-400 or S-500, have a chance to shoot down these U.S. F-22s or F-35s? Mike Kaufman, a Russian military research expert at CNA Corporation, once stated, "The core of air defense construction in Moscow's strategy is countering stealth weapons with radar." Currently, Russia's complex air defense system includes advanced radar stations, various types of anti-aircraft missiles, and interceptor fighter aircraft, all integrated into a unified, highly automated complex, forming a multi-layered umbrella to protect its vast airspace. At the MAX 2017 exhibition, Russia introduced the Struna-1 radar. This is one of the tactical radar systems developed to neutralize U.S. stealth fighters like the F-22 and F-35. The Struna-1 radar does not integrate the transceiver in the same antenna array, but places the transmitting and receiving stations at two different locations. This makes the radar more sensitive to return signals from targets. The manufacturer claims this design helps increase the target's radar cross-section by 3 times compared to conventional radars, neutralizing the radar scattering capabilities of stealth materials, and also countering anti-radar missiles. The limitation of this system is its short operational range. It can only track targets at a maximum altitude of 7 kilometers and a range of about 12 kilometers. This means the Struna-1 cannot act as a long-range warning system but is only suitable for identifying stealth aircraft in vulnerable directions. The best solution is to combine the Struna-1 station with long-wave surveillance radar stations, which have a larger operational range but lower accuracy, to provide target parameters for air defense systems. Despite its current limitations, it is still considered a serious threat to U.S. and NATO stealth aircraft in potential conflicts. When combined with Struna-1 radars and modern air defense missiles, it will become a nemesis for the expensive F-22s, F-35s, and B-2s of the U.S. and its allies. With Russia's astonishing progress in radar technology in recent years, US and NATO military experts believe that the risk of fifth-generation stealth aircraft like the F-22 or F-35 losing their stealth advantage and becoming sitting ducks for Russian air defense systems like the S-400 or S-500 is entirely possible. Thus, it's no coincidence that the Soviet Union, and later Russia, is considered the world leader in air defense. This is because the threat from the most powerful military, the US, has never ceased to exist. The potential danger from Washington's global conventional prompt strike attacks is one of Moscow's top challenges. The US Global Prompt Strike Program has an overall structure similar to a nuclear triad. It primarily aims to conduct rapid strikes from land and sea, using cruise missiles and intercontinental ballistic missiles launched from submarines. Air-launched hypersonic missiles are the second option the Pentagon is researching and developing. Additionally, Washington has hypothetical plans for dynamic bombing from an orbital satellite device. From what we've analyzed, one thing is clear: Russia's air defense strength comes not only from advanced technology but also from a multi-layered defense strategy that continuously adapts and innovates. This is a powerful reminder of the importance of maintaining a robust defense system in today's complex geopolitical landscape. It's not just about possessing the most advanced weapons. It's about the ability to integrate, innovate, and anticipate potential threats. The lesson here is that, in the military world, complacency can lead to defeat, and only nations that continuously invest in defense can protect their sovereignty and security. So what kind of weapons do you think Russia needs to develop to survive a US attack if what we just discussed actually happens? Share your thoughts below to discuss with everyone. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to continue joining us on our next journeys. For now, goodbye and see you again.